Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of She Has Something to Say. I am your host. My name is Lori Harris, and I sure do enjoy these interviews that I get to do with women from all around the world who are inspiring and being authentic and making major positive, lasting impacts in the things that they think and say and do. So today, I'm really honored to have Terri Thomas on today's interview with us. And Terri is the executive director of the Vision Resource Center. They serve the blind and the visually impaired. Terri is also an elderly advocate, and she's also a voiceover artist. And I love Terri's background in her education. She's got an undergraduate in economics and business, and she's got her master's of science in gerontology at Oklahoma State University. So she's got some good stuff going on there. And she lives in southeastern North Carolina, up there in Fayetteville. So welcome, Terri. I'm so honored to have you on board today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Good. So, Terri, tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do and some of the impacts that you're making right now in your life.
Man, I mean, that's loaded. Who I am. So many people say I have so much energy in these types of things. You hear what other people say, and you're like, is that me really? But um basically I was a corporate America buyer. That was my corporate America life. And I, like so many women, I had elderly parents. And my mommy passed away in 2004. And so my dad was here to fend for himself in the big city of Fayetteville, and I was in Raleigh. And I was like, he is not going to be able to make it by himself. So I moved home, and I still had my corporate America job, trying to do VA. He was a veteran, World War II vet, and trying to do these things. And corporate America said, hey, you can't do both. It's difficult to get the big reviews and move up the corporate ladder and take care of your parents. So I said, I got to do something. And one of my aunts said, hey, you got to fast and pray. I was like, what is this fast and pray? Never did it before. But to make a long story short, I did it. And at the end of that fasting, the job had a severance package. I came out of corporate America to take care of my dad, finish up my degree. And as a result of all of it, ended up getting with the Vision Resource Center. In the midst of what I thought was going to walk away from a job, and I ended up rolling right into a passion that I knew nothing about, and working with the blind and visually impaired.
That transformation is phenomenal. I have goosebumps listening to you talk about this. And being an advocate for elderly, just as being an advocate for children, it is something that's very vital. It takes a lot of understanding and compassion and empathy, but even more so, it takes somebody who's willing and committed and disciplined to understanding the issues and the challenges and some of the opportunities for that age group as well. So, talk a little bit about how you went from being a salesperson with companies like Micron and Memorex Telex and John Deere and Wyeth Pharmaceuticals, some major manufacturing groups, to and shifting over to healthcare and elderly care, and what transition, and I know it comes with a little bit of education in your master's degree, but beyond that, talk about those experiences that you've had that have brought you to being able to really feel fulfilled in that.
The thing is, how people say how the divine intervention comes in. Like, from when my mom had Alzheimer's, I was still living in Raleigh and working, and seeing that transition. I was always this anal, on time, gotta be this way, don't understand it any other way. But when you're dealing with the elderly parent, it's like once an adult, twice a child. So that kind of broke me in with my mother. So, and going to the doctor's appointments, and knowing that they're going to sit there in sickness and listen to whatever a physician has to say, and not necessarily advocate for themselves. So fast forward to my daddy, a whole totally different bird. My mom was really serene, but my dad was like Fred Sanford Jr. And I was and I was like his son, the big dummy. That was a totally different experience. So,
Oh, wow.
and working with my dad and a difficult parent at that, and fostering everything for his needs, that propelled me to figure out what my master's was going to be. Because I just thought I was going to go get a master's in my MBA. And so my sister said, do something that you're passionate about. You love working with the elderly. And even though it was my dad, that made me start talking to other individuals caring for their parents, because I had something to bring to the table. Like, I came up with a checklist for taking care of him, like when we checked temperature, when we did blood pressure, and some of the things that you need to ask the doctors when you go in. So I started developing into something totally different because I got thrown into it with my dad. The analness went out the window. How things are going to be a certain way flew out the window. So all of this and this advocacy with my parents and having a lawn for the elderly propelled me into, I'm getting my master's degree in gerontology, because I too am going to be old one day and I want somebody to know how to take care of me, you know?
And
So that's how that happened. It's one of those things, like a coinky thing kind of, but I love it. And then that propelled me into dealing with 80% of our visually impaired people are elderly, right? But I never dealt with the blind. And when my church member said she had a job for me when I came out of my severance, and she knew I was getting my degree in gerontology, she said, I got a perfect job for you. And I said, what kind of job? She said, working with blind people. I said, I know nothing about working with blind people. She said, well, we're old and you like old people. Here I am, 10 years later, working with blind and visually impaired adults and kids, where 80% of them are elderly, but then we have some that are younger than that. But all of these things from my personal experience propelled me into what my passion has become in my professional experience.
and then talk about how your education has underlying played a role in
Yeah, and
the
in my undergraduate, business and econ, you hate it when you're doing it, but then being in my professional role as a small nonprofit, which we are, when I started 10 years ago, is a part-time salary of $25,000 a year, no benefits, no nothing, but it allowed me to take care of my dad without any reservation, where he could actually come out if he needed to. So you had to do the finances. You had to make sure you did the rules and regulations, or the governance, or the standard operating procedures. All of this stuff that I learned at state that I'm like, what do I need this stuff for, right? It became to come full circle. And then the gerontology, who knew I physically would be working with elderly people and helping them outside of my job when they do have to go to doctor's appointments, or they don't have family members. So it's a full circle dynamic of how life evolves within itself that you don't even realize when you're going through the journey of life, on how that's going to end up being.
So, Terri, you are known by those that you serve and by dear friends and by your fellow church members as being someone who goes above and beyond, that you are a true, authentic advocate, and that you are genuinely a person who comes from a deep place of love. And so going from sales and moving into the nonprofit world, specifically focusing on elderly, where in your life were the pivots that really gave you those key attitudes and characteristics that kind of are foundational for you and your success?
Well, something about me, I am adopted. So my parents adopted me at 50 years of age. So when my mother passed away, she was 88 and my dad was 93. So coming from an environment of an only child, so to speak, adopted, you gain these insights from how you grew up. So I've always kind of had an old spirit anyway. And
Uh-huh.
then to have to, in my group, or in my girlfriends, or my tribe as I call them, I'm the first one that has ever had to take care of a elderly parent or a sick parent or to go through these things. And I also question so many times, God, why do you think I'm so strong in this? Like, to be able to do this.
Right.
But what you find is that higher force, whatever anybody's belief is, mine happens to be God. When you trust that,
Yes.
it just propels itself. I never thought I would have to change my father's pamper, clean, all these things. I'm like, turn him over when he became bedridden. All these things, that they taught me from what they gave to people that I never thought I was listening to, or you develop, right? It was ingrained in me, in terms of community. My dad was a member of the Cumberland Community Action Program, which is now Action Pathways here in Fayetteville. And I found a certificate in 1965 that showed how he advocated in that way for the underprivileged and that kind of thing. So fast forward to me now, I'm doing it without even knowing how much of an impact he was in community voting, underprivileged, helping people make a way in civil rights, that he marched on Washington, all these things that I wasn't really there for.
Uh-huh.
It still was embedded in me through me being in this energy or this space.
Yeah. So
Because
you're
all
also,
of those things are there. Yeah.
I love it. And people have described you as being disciplined and being humble and being committed and being a person who perseveres. So it's all in alignment with the information that we received from others about you. And it's such a beautiful thing because those things do help you through times of adversity. They do help you through times where there's massive changes, such as COVID right now. So I'm curious, you work with the blind right now. How is COVID affecting what you do with those that you serve?
COVID has, as I tell people all the time, it has affected everybody in some way, whether it be physical, financially, or mentally.
Right.
COVID has been major to a lot of nonprofits, not just me. We've had to forego fundraisers that we had planned. And when you're small or large, when you miss a fundraiser, that's missing a lot, and it takes every dollar to make it, So we've had to come out of the box and start thinking about virtual fundraising. And so it's a double-edged sword, like, dang, we can't do this, but hey, that means we got to get creative and start thinking out the box on how we can raise funds, on these types of things. And again, my tribe, I didn't know about the PPP, but there's like, Terri, there's a way to get money. And they said, it's going to be virtually impossible to get it. Perseverance. I'm going to try to get it because I got to pay my employees because we're going to work during COVID. So what we find in COVID is our people, especially our demographic, if they're not around people or social, that's even more depressing. We think we're depressed. They're even more depressed by not having that outlet, or being able to get out or having to trust people are wearing the mask or whatever, or people are 6 feet because they don't know. So it's a lot of anxiety that goes on in that. So out of this pandemic, we came up with the VRC on wheels. So good things do happen in pandemic times, So we were able to partner with food banks we have about 30 to 35 visually impaired adults that are at home alone, meaning they don't have any family members. They're living completely by themselves. So we're able to provide them with supplies such as disinfectant, mask, Lysol, food from the food pantries, some of their favorite snacks. And so we've been doing that like every 2 weeks, and all the staff and some of our board members, we go out and we deliver to them. We call weekly even to the ones that aren't staying at home alone, because even though you're with your family, sometimes when you're visually impaired, they don't really get it. They're your family members, but they don't get it like someone else of your peership. So we've been going. I mean, we haven't stopped. I mean, we've been going. We figured out a way to do something different. We've gotten conference call now where they don't have to plug in a pen. So we did Bible. We do VRC Believes on Thursday at 1:00. So that's our uplift, non-denominational spiritual side. Then we have the BRC Connection on Wednesdays at 1, where we have yoga, breathing exercises via the phone, where
Oh,
people can kind of whoosah, breathing in, breathing out, and then just talk it up with each other about what's going on, if
uh-huh,
they're bored, what's going on in the community.
uh-huh.
It's been really amazing, and it is growing from that. So even when we open back up, it's a way to reach to our members that had to go move in with kids because they can't stay by themselves anymore. It's a way for them to still stay connected. So
Right.
in the midst of this pandemic, we're finding other ways to reach people.
Mhm.
So we had summer camp with our kids. We had 11 kids. We social distance. We did everything outside. We got a big industrial fan. So we've been blessed in the fact that some people saw what we were doing because I Facebook Live everything, right? So they're like, we got COVID-19 money. Who knew that? So as a result of our efforts and persistence to keep going, people noticed that. And so we were able to get COVID funding to be able to do the hands-free soap dispensers, sanitary, because now we have to think totally different. Thermometers, the hands-free thermometers, the oximeters, you have to get prepared for COVID, it costs money. So that has enabled us to be able, or enabled us to be able to keep going in spite of it all, while still doing the CDC regulations and guidelines and keeping people safe as we can. So we might choke on Lysol, but we're spraying it.
Don't say that.
I'm just joking. I'm just
I know you are. So tell us a little bit more. You mentioned some of the current services that you're offering. What is the mission of the Vision Resource Center?
Our total mission is to foster the mental, physical capacities of people with a visual impairment. Whatever it takes to uplift them in that way is what we do. Pre-COVID, we were getting ready to take off. We were starting a travel club because they want to travel. So we were going to go to Harrods up in Asheville. So we
Uh-huh.
had planned it out. They were excited about it. We are going to do tours, not just gamble, but do tours, So we had started the travel club. So that kind of got pinned to the side. But we were doing things like going to the lavender fields, going to farmers markets, letting them touch, feel, zoo for the kids, surfing for the kids. They did tandem surfing. So it's really safe. Yeah, I mean, you name it. When they say they want to do something, we let it happen. I mean, other than just the normal things like bingo, shopping, lunchtime, that kind of stuff. We did these kinds of things, but we try to keep them just like concerts. We're supposed to go to the Color Purple play, but of course, DPAC, everything got canceled. So these are the things that we do in the normalcy of life. I let them do everything like what me and you would do. I
Right.
just make sure we do it where we get the best seats for them, where it's not as loud, because people that have sight problems, sometimes like really, really loud noises, it sets that off. So I try to make sure that we have tactile stuff, places where they can, where the audibly can hear a lot better, hear a lot where they can't see. So I just make the same things we know and love, more consistent for them where they can enjoy it. So that's what we try to do, to keep them as viable in the community as possible, as well as advocating for themselves, like city council meetings, county commissioners meetings, to let them know their vote matters too.
Yeah.
So regardless of how you vote, I don't care how you vote. As long as you vote, we take them, make sure whatever they need, if they do absentee ballot, whatever the help or the need is, I get them to advocate for themselves because it's critically important to them still remaining viable in the community and feel a part of that community.
So how do you get clients or customers? Are they referrals to you, or are you partnered with the hospital or with other agencies and partnerships? How does that work?
We partner with the Division of Blind Services, which is a spinoff of Department of Health and Human Services. So we
Okay.
partner with them. So they have a leg that works with the blind and visually impaired, but they're state supported most so. And then we have the nonprofit leg. So the things they can't do, we can do, and vice versa. Then a lot of the optometrists here in the community, we get them as well. And then Duke Low Vision refers as well. So word of mouth has been the biggest thing, believe it or not. Word of mouth has been the biggest thing. And then the transportation, the county and the city have worked together to partner to get the bands to come out to our facility. That was a little battle, but we won that battle. And then we have our own bands. So we go pick people up that don't qualify for the band service. So we pick them up. So we have a fleet of 3, a
Oh, wow.
minivan, excuse me, a minivan and 2 like church style vans, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
So we go and we pick up and we make it happen. And for those we can't pick up now in COVID, that's going to change, because where we could do 15 on a van, we now have to do 7.
Yeah.
Where we could do 7 in the minivan, we now going to do 3.5. We'll split
Right.
somebody in half.
Right. Right.
So all of these challenges that people don't know about, we make it look easy, but you have to think about all of these things and how we can foster to get the people out now
Right.
during these times until they lift some more of the restrictions, or until it's more comfortable, because most of them are vulnerable, because the majority is 80%. So they have other health needs like cancer, high blood pressure, that all that vulnerability status. We got to keep all that in mind, and knowing we cannot social distance. So we got to make sure we have the gloves, the shields, so we're unfortunately an organization, we can't necessarily social distance in every case.
Oh my
But
goodness.
we got to figure, we try to figure out, because they either have to walk with you with their hand on your shoulder or hand on elbow.
Right.
So we make sure we do a lot of hand washing, and everything is mandatory again with the mask inside and outside we do.
Right. Right. That would make sense. That absolutely would make sense. Budget wise, what kind of budget do you manage and lead every year?
Well, right now we're at 250. Have we made that? We've kind of suffered a little bit in COVID, but we've been blessed that we make it happen. Sometimes, I guess when you talk about the adversity, I
Uh-huh.
think this is the hardest job I've ever worked in my life, but it's a job that I don't ever want to be sick. Like, sometimes I'm saying this, but hopefully none of my old managers, like corporate America, you get a headache, I'm not going in. I don't feel like going in. But with the nonprofit, you have so many people that you are there for.
Uh-huh.
I very rarely miss a day of work. And if I do, I'm still calling in, or it's something they have to tell me not to do that, because if you're not doing it, you're letting somebody else down that can't help themselves. That's the difference.
Okay, so
That's the
I've got to
difference for me.
mention this. True greatness in life is to choose to pursue significance over success. Talk about that motto, the 7 choices to ignite a radically inspired life on fire by John O'Leary. Girl, you got to share this now. Talk
You
about
have got to read the book. I forgot who even gave me the book, but
uh-huh,
I read that book and I read that line.
uh,
Significance over success. I was like, wow. I mean, I walked away from that book. I just looked at, like, so many of my friends said, why would you take that job? You're not making any money. You don't have a retirement. They're not doing long-term, short-term. But I know that it was meant, because every time we get low, I mean, our lowest of low, I can tell you a time when I took that job, we had $100,000 in the account. I mean, liquid money, cash. And I said I was going to make sure everything was off. There we go. So
happens.
we got down. This is my first year, and I very rarely share this, but this is part of the testimony. My first year, we got down to 3,000. Well, no, we had 100,000 in the bank for 2 years, because nobody knew who I was. So the sponsors are the donors. They're like, whoa, we're not giving her any money. So we lived off of 100,000 for 2 years. And
Uh-huh.
that second year, I got down to $3,000 to run a
Wow.
whole organization.
Wow.
I said, God, please don't let me close this job. And I just got this job, and the people weren't coming through, and this, that, and the third. And a very known foundation granted us $30,000 out, because I prayed about this, $30,000. And then shortly after that, the community foundation, which I tell them this all the time under the leadership of Mary Holmes, they said, Terri, we want to set you up in how to govern and make this the best nonprofit. And they said, we're not going to give you what you asked for, but we're going to give you the tools you need to succeed.
Oh,
And
okay.
they did. I said, if you get me out of this, I'll never get that low again. Now we've been low, but we ain't never been that low again, because I then that adversity of the transition from corporate America to nonprofit was totally not what I thought. I was thinking everybody was kumbaya, we're gonna help each other. It was more cutthroat than corporate America. I was shocked by it.
Uh-huh.
And the mentorship that you try to gain with people, it was more of a competition where I'm so not that way. I'm like, hey, if I know it, I'm going to tell you. And I feel like everybody has a different mission and we can all help to uplift people in different ways. Well, it is something to keep that money in, but we get it. And sometimes I'm going to be honest, I know it's nothing but upstairs and how we get it, because a grant application, you can write it good all day long, but either they're going to fund you or they're not. It doesn't matter about the content. It's all about if it meets the need for that person. So you never asked me this question, but my biggest struggle in nonprofit is how to make our mission, how to change the dynamic to make my mission as passionate to somebody else as it is to me,
That's
and
the
knowing how critically important it is
that's the
to serve
igniting,
that.
right? That's the ignition. That's that igniting a
Yes,
radically inspired life on fire.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You have this tremendous energy about you. So my question to you is, you give a lot. You share a lot of love. You give of yourself to others constantly. How do you take care of yourself so that every day you're able to get up, show up, and make a difference and be effective?
I work on it daily, and I think I turned 50 last year. And
Uh-huh.
my thing is, I was going to do a better job of self love, and that it is a daily push to put the boundaries in place. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I now don't beat myself up for it. I
Lovely.
I don't beat myself up for it now. I say every day I'm going to start off this way. I start my day with my meditation, and I don't let the phone or anything, that's the time. So I've done well at that, but I'm also an empath. So I take on people's energy as if it's mine. So
Right.
it's a constant battle within myself to be able, like when people say, you got a hidden agenda, I really don't. What I'm giving off is who I am. This is my authentic self. This is not the representative that people think. So a lot of times now, where I used to be that social butterfly with my friends, corporate America, now I take that time where I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go out of the house. I just want to listen to music, not TV or any of that. I just want to zone out. And so I'm okay with that. I don't try to keep up with everybody else or make them happy, or so I'm working on it daily, and it's a struggle. It is a struggle to take that time for myself when people don't get it, because when you have to funnel with health and human services, you got to have a time to zone out of the world, so to speak. you know
Absolutely.
um and when I was a caregiver to my father, I was going 110 on all levels. So when he passed away, it just crashed on me. So I strive daily, and it's a perfect question. People say all the time, but I get up every day and I go at it. But when I crash, I crash. When I go to sleep, people say, do you have problems sleeping? No, I don't.
Because you give. Yeah, you give. I can feel it. Your energy is massive. It's beautiful. It is uplifting and it is strong. You are strong in who you are and what you do, definitely. And if anything, I would say, and I would commend you for those moments in the morning where we can get silent, where we can let those true gifts that we're awarded or given or gifted, and we let that just resonate in our being, in this physical body, and let that heart begin to that heart mind begin to really speak out to that head mind where we take action, right, for the day, where we
Mhm.
actually manage those energies so that we know what we're going to focus on and what's priority, and we're going to go after it, and we're going to go after it well, and it's going to be amazing, and at the end of the day we're going to be grateful, right?
Right.
Right. That, I'm just going to say it, you are working in that space of what I deem that highest and best. And that is where we create legacy. That's where we create those opportunities where others can actually be engaged in that same experience because they either model you or they're riding right there along with you. So where I'm going with this is I want you to share some of your most notable people in your life who you honor, who you cherish, who've really helped you along the way.
Ah, I tell you, all of these are deceased people, but my daddy, number one, he pushed me harder than I think anybody on earth. Like, he would never tell me he was proud of me, but I knew it, and so to spend his last days with him or years with him, that showed me where I was like, my dad never said it. And even though my mom would tell me, he's like, people may never give you that. You have to know it within yourself. My mom for telling me to, when they couldn't get education, to proceed forth. That's part of why I even went and got a master's. I had no intention of getting it, but I did it online. But I went to Oklahoma State so I could walk across that stage so I could thank my mom, because they couldn't. These were things that they were not able to be able to afford to be able to do. And for both of them adopting me and me having no worries or cares has been what I always knew. I was adopted. They never hid it from me from 3 years old. I was like, I'm something called adopted. That they were honest with me in that. And so when people say, weren't you upset about being adopted? That's when I had a lot of issues growing up, but adoption was not one of them. And then my grandmother, I call Mother Dear, who's my mother's best friend. That's my biological grandmother. She just passed away 3 months ago with COVID. And if she would not have sent me here, because my biological mother was 17 when she had me, she couldn't take care of me, sent me here. Look at all in which I was gifted, or being able to be a gift to my mom and dad when they didn't have their own kids, to
Right.
be able to take care of them in older age. And then my cousin, Little Great Crenshaw, that ran for Senate here some time ago, she died of brain cancer. Some people liked her, some people didn't. They said she was an itch. But most people that are called itches are ones that are powerful in their community. And she believed in her community and fighting for her community. And a culmination of all of those people have made me what I am today. I have a girl tribe that is beyond this world. That I have friends. I have a set group of friends that have been there for me. If I have a fundraiser, they're there. I mean, I have a girl tribe, too many to name. Well, there's 6 of them, but they're all over. So if they hear this, they know who they are. That girl Travis, some has been with me from elementary school. I've known them over 40 years, to some that I've known 5 years, but each of them have played an integral role in who I am and the belief in my mission with working with people. If I don't hear it, they tell me about it. So I just have an excellent support team. I haven't gotten that special someone yet, but he'll have to come along eventually. But that I have, and with that, I feel so fulfilled. I'm in that. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. But without any one of them, I could not be this. And of course, the man upstairs, I don't want to put him second or third, but that has been the main Huna that has got me through mom and dad, job, everything, So my belief in my faith, it gets me through a lot of things that people don't even know. Behind the smile, there is a lot of adversity that you've had to go through. But to whom much is given, much is required.
It is, and life really is good, regardless of the challenge, and that's what makes it So exciting. Definitely.
Yes.
All right, Terry, I have to ask you, you're pretty active not only with the organization that you serve, the Vision Resource Center, but you're pretty active in your community with your church. You're a member of the Kiwanis Club, and you serve on several boards throughout Cumberland County. So talk about those a little bit, and then talk about the ability to have that diverse service work that you do and the impact that it makes overall to how powerful that is for community.
Well, just with Cape Fear Kiwanis, I mean, my when I was little, my two biggest people I had to advocate for are kids and older adults. So my Cape Fear Kiwanis Club is like my youth orientation. Like everything they do, they're giving back to kids or things that support kids, and they're a good group of people. And out of that good group of people, they're people with business. So not only when I'm helping the kids in the world, I said, well, Terry, what are you doing with the center? So it ends up being full focus because we work with kids with visual impairment. So I not only go to them for money, I actually go to support the cause or their mission, whether it be a golf tournament, pancake sale, or whatever. Because when people give to me, I feel like you should be able to give of yourself to them. It should just be a one-sided type thing. Church, I give 110% to my church. I tell people, I said, it's funny that I'm on the finance team at church because my dad always made me count money and deposit money. So it's like, here I am again with money. So I give back to my church. A lot of seasoned individuals go to my church. So there are very few young people that are operating in the church. And again, sometimes you just want to sit back, but God pushes you like, you could be doing more, right? So the church thing, so that helps me again in that financial realm, not to mention some of the other boards with juvenile crime prevention with Cumberland County. I've been on the ABC board. I've been on a number of different things, but the biggest thing out of all of it is that significance piece and being able to make a difference in community, whatever capacity I'm in. It may not be that I'm there for the blind, but I may be able to speak of them, or I may not be there for seniors, but I'm able to stand up for seniors. My biggest thing is to be able to be a voice for the voiceless. That's my whole deal. If you don't have a voice, I want to be able to have that voice for you in any capacity that I'm in. So I take this voice, and it's a big voice. I guess for my 4'11" body. So I gotta have a big voice. But to go out and be able to spread that wherever I go so that the light that shines in me goes out towards others in some type of a capacity.
All right. So what would you tell your younger self today?
Oh man, what would I tell my younger self? I would have listened to my parents more. I would have gotten to 50 and said, they told me that a long time ago.
tell
So
me
much farther ahead.
tell me the power of laughter.
Oh my God. Laughter, it's so infectious. Like people to laugh and to be able to be around friends. I mean, I'm so glad for Zoom because I'd probably be crazy. To be able to laugh, that is so stress relieving, even in this time that we can make light of whatever situation. Sometimes people are so serious and they can't get out of themselves to know how blessed they are. Like so many weddings have been canceled or having to change or momentous birthdays. But at the end of the day, we still got life,
Yeah.
So laughter is just a fruit for the soul. That's what I say. It's, when I can have that belly full laugh, tears streaming down, all else is secondary, man. You don't think about anything else.
Right, right. Okay, so one more thing. You mentioned earlier you got girlfriends all over the place. In relationships that aren't necessarily right in your hometown, how do you nurture those relationships? What are some of the things
Oh,
that you do?
I am that friend that will call you out of the blue, send a card, or just pick up the phone and say, I was thinking about you. One of my girlfriends said, Terry, I have to work at being a better friend. You are the epitome of being a better friend. I had a old Palm Pilot. I don't know if remember the old Palm Pilot.
Yes, I used to
I
love
had
it. I loved it.
I almost died because the software died in it, and I had everybody's birthdays in it from elementary school on. So I'm like, Oh my God, I may know the month, but I may not know the date. So as people talk to me, I try to sneak and, write them down or whatever. But I try to foster those friendships because, again, if you don't have your tribe, and every friend brings me something different. Like I could go to this friend for this. I know what friend to go to, which one not to go to, but they all encompass themselves to help you. I have one friend that helps me with interior in my house. I have one friend. So it's a lot of different tribal people that you have to communicate with. And if it's nothing but once a week or once a month or whatever it is, I try to make time. And especially during this time, because we think everybody's okay, but
Right,
everybody's not doing okay
right.
mentally with what's going on in the world between the social changes, the racial tensions, the all this, all this. So we got to do a check-in with people and say, hey, how you doing? So I'll do that periodically, and I write like a list out in my journal. Like these are people that I want to call about a week because I can't remember like I used to. As my mom said, keep living, right? So I write down these are the people that I want to connect with by the end of the week. And it may go into the next week, but like I said, I'm gentle with myself now. But it may go, but I make sure within that 2 weeks that I'm calling them. It may be someone I hadn't talked to in a lot, even if they haven't called me. Because people get caught up in that. They didn't call me. Doesn't matter. You call them and you check in with them.
That's
So
right.
I
That's
do the
right.
best that I can with that.
You're beautiful. You are wonderful. You are joyful. Oh, this has just been a pleasure, definitely. So
Me too.
before we head out, I'm curious, now that you have interviewed with us and you've definitely spoken with Brian about She Has Something to Say, tell us why you agreed to come on She Has Something to Say.
I agreed to come on because you know what? I value Brian Barnett. I have known Brian since probably 10 years since I started. I met through his mother. She's the very first persons that told me about funding and all of that. And then me and Brian did some projects together. I trusted him
Yeah.
on some things we did in the senior community with movies and blindfolds, and he probably told you all that in his book. And I still have his book. It's right over there. And when he said, "I have something," and my life gets hectic, people just don't know how crazy my life can be. And he said, "Terri," I said, "What is it?" I didn't even know what this was exactly. I didn't know. And I said,
Uh-huh.
if Brian says that this is something he would like for me to do, I'm going to do it. And now that I have done it, I'm so thrilled and honored and humbled because I got to meet you. And it's like, I like to have wine with you. And they're like, you just seem like an energy vibe that is out of this world and that you're doing great things. So now I want to know more about this other than me being on it. I want to know more about this journey, right?
Yes, it's
So I
amazing.
trusted him.
Oh, it's amazing. And we're getting to talk to women all over the world. We're getting to talk to women who truly are living a life from within out. They're really looking to make those amazing impacts. They're genuinely focusing and aligning themselves to their values and to the values of other things. And because of that, the impacts that they're making are so positive and they're so lasting and sustainable. And it's not just this once and done mentality. It's not this give me mentality. It truly is, okay, I've got a lot, and like you said, too much is given, much is deserved, right? Much is expected for you to go and take and make happen. And so these ladies, and by the way, we are also talking to men, the men who are creating platforms for women leaders, and the men who are supporting those programs and those opportunities as well. So jointly, we're beginning to have these beautiful conversations. It's not about all the demographics and all those things in which we measure. It's truly about the impact. It's truly about the
Yeah,
narratives and the stories. And
yeah.
I'm so grateful that you said yes to Brian. In the future, we're going to be looking at how do we do more workshops for learning and for engaging and self-awareness. And how do we do, retreats and conferences, and not that it's not the technical how, it's the when how, and
Right.
making sure it aligns how. It's that kind
Yes.
of stuff. So it's going to be an honor. I can't wait to squeeze you.
We have to do virtual hug.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the meantime, we'll continue to do that. I'm going to connect with you, and I know
Please.
our audience is going to connect with you, but they need to know how.
Okay.
How can they connect with you?
Okay, we have our website, which is Vision Resource Center cc.org. Then the number is 910-483-2719. And then my personal email address is V as in Victor, RCEX director at gmail.com.
Beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful. And by the way, everybody, you can find her interview on shehassomethingnto say.com. It's on our website. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on all those other social medias. It's a laundry list. Please go out there and look for us. And I can't thank you enough again, Terri. This has been an honor. It's my
Thank you.
honor.
The pleasure is mine. I'm so excited. I'm still excited. So can't wait until we connect.
Yes, absolutely. And for all of you out there, if you are one of those she's that has something to say, please reach out to us at info@shehassomethingnto say.com or visit our website and reach us through Contact Us. We're looking forward to sharing more of these narratives and more of these stories. And thank you and be blessed.